Well, hello, and today I'm going to talk about storytelling, as I think you can guess from the slide right there. I'm going to see if I can get rid of this. That should go away on its own. All right, so all of you know that I like to tell jokes. Okay. There are let me get two fingers up there. There are two basic kinds of jokes. There's a joke that relies on wordplay. And we've all told jokes like that. I think I may have told you this one already. Why shouldn't you play cards with a pirate? Never play cards with a pirate. You know why? Because he always be standing on the deck. Okay, a wordplay joke. Pretty good, wasn't it? Okay, a wordplay joke. Very simple, very direct, and if people understand the language and so on, they'll probably get the funny aspect of it. Now, I like storytelling jokes. That's the second kind of joke, and those I've already told a few of them. Here's another example. A man walks into a bar, and it's a big place, and he walks over to the bar. The bartender says, "Well, what do you have?" Phyllis says, "I'll have a beer. IPA, thank you." And so bartender gives him his beer. The fellow's holding the beer, and he turns around and he looks around this big place. And he notices way off in the back corner there's a card game going on. And there's three guys and a dog, a great big dog sitting there playing cards. And the fellow's just astounded. And he turns to the bartender and he says, I can't believe there's a dog playing cards over there. The bartender says, "Yeah, he comes in most nights. He likes to play poker." And the fellow says, "Well, that's just amazing. I've never heard of a dog that can play cards." And the bartender looked at him and said, "Yeah, he's pretty popular around here." And the fellow said, "Well, does he win? I mean, is he good at playing cards?" And the bartender said, "Well, not really. Every time he gets a good hand, he wags his tail." Get it? Wags his tail. Okay. All right. A storytelling joke. All right. So, storytelling is one of the most basic human things that we do. Even when we meet with friends and we get together, something's happened that you think is interesting during the day. How do you tell it? You don't just lay out the facts, you tell it as a story. And I've mentioned this before, I'm going to say it over and over again. It's liable to appear on the test. No matter what kind of speech it may be, whether it's an informative speech, a persuasive speech, an entertainment speech, a motivational speech, whatever you can think of, at the heart of all of these types of speeches is storytelling. And that's why I've dumped the demonstration speech in lieu of doing the dramatic reading. Because getting used to speaking in a way that you're comfortable and that people want to hear is all about developing this feeling of storytelling. So let me move on here, and I'll explain. All right, there's a video which I will send you a link to along with this lecture called "The Seven Secrets of Great Speakers" by a fellow named Richard Green. It's a pretty good video. Being a professional communicator myself, I kind of agree and sort of don't agree with some of the things he says, but overall, it's a very good video. And he lists these three percentages. I guess they actually, not sure that adds up to 100% or not. Anyway, um, but the point that Richard Green makes and that I make all the time is that giving a presentation, whether it's telling a joke or standing up and giving a presentation in front of a group of colleagues at work, it's a very, very physical activity. Now, I'm sitting down in a chair, but you can tell I still get, just by my voice, uh, my my face, although my eye is still kind of swollen there, but you get the point. It's a very, very physical activity, and unfortunately, since we can't be in a classroom to do this, you're not going to quite get the same sensation in full effect. In my presentation about speech anxiety, I talked about the physical things that happen to your body and your brain when you get up and you give a speech and it becomes a stressful situation. And Richard Green says that indeed the words themselves, the words that we choose to use, only have about 7% of the impact on the listener. I don't know where he came up with these numbers, but okay, I get the point here. Words in and of themselves, and I'm going to do a lecture next week called The Power of Words that will go into this a little bit more. But just the words, a word is a word is a word, okay? It's how you deliver them, the way we say them. Again, I don't know where the number came from, but he says that has 38% of the impact on the listener. Okay. And then he says body language. And this is where, I don't know, I think I would switch these numbers around a little bit, but I'll let Green have his day here. Body language is also extremely important. How you hold yourself, how you stand. Are you in a position of power? Are you projecting well? Do you look confident? This is all about body language. I think I would have assigned the way we say the words the 55% and the body language 38. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You get the point. You get the idea that just the words themselves aren't as important as the way we say the words, the way we present ourselves, and the way we reach for our cup of water and take a sip seamlessly without losing the thread of our thoughts. All right. So anyway, something to think about. Like I said, I'll include a link to this video and you can watch it. It's short, it's 10 minutes or something. All right, so anyway, you get the idea. Giving a speech, giving a presentation, telling a story is a very physical activity. All right, so now, again, I'm squinting to read my own slides. My webcam that I'm using on my big monitor, the microphone crapped out on me. It's always something, isn't it? Okay, so I'm back to using my little laptop. And here I am. All right. So when you get up to give a speech, you got to do some things. You got to, as I say here, you got to win the interest of the audience right away. First of all, you always start a presentation, whether it's the dramatic reading or anything else, by telling people who you are. All right. That's rule number 2. Remember rule number 2? Did I hear it? Oh, I heard somebody say it. Yes, that's right. Never assume anything. Now, I'm sorry I just broke rule number 1, but I'll say it anyway. I'm sorry I keep going back to if we were in the classroom. Obviously, we would have had a chance for everyone to introduce themselves, but you can't assume they're going to remember who you are. So, good afternoon. My name is Ray Shabinsky, and today I'm going to present. Okay. Always tell people who you are. Now, this depends, of course, on the situation. If you're in front of a group of colleagues at work who you work closely with, obviously you're not going to say, "Hi, I'm sure you all remember I'm Ray." Well, duh. Okay, so again, you have to adapt to your audience. And remember, in the last announcement I sent out, I told you read chapter 5, adapting to your audience. Once again, I'll come back to that. So introduce yourselves. Tell us what you're going to read. Good afternoon. My name is Ray, and today I'm going to read a poem by Robert W. Service called The Cremation of Sam McGee. Very simple. Now, one of the things I always recommend with the dramatic reading is, you want to get people interested in what you're doing. And you can do this by, as I say here, setting the stage. And you can create that stage if you want by giving us just a little information of, in this case, why you're reading whatever it is you've chosen to read. Let me do it again. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Ray, and today I'm going to read The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. This has always been one of my favorite poems. I read it when I was in junior high, and it's just great fun. This poem was written by Service in the 1890s when he was up in the Yukon, and he heard stories coming in. He worked in a store in Juneau, Alaska, and he heard stories coming in from the prospectors, and he loved writing them down. And so that's what I'm going to read to you today. Now, there you go. I've set the stage. I probably went on a little bit longer than I need to. You might choose to read a favorite children's book. Okay, hello everyone, I'm Ray, and today I'm going to read Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. The reason I'm reading this book for you is I've always loved reading it to my two daughters when they were growing up, so it's been a favorite of mine. Again, a little bit of introduction, it sets the stage. Now then, what do I mean by a dramatic pause? I just happen to have a copy of The Cremation of Sam McGee. Surprised? The Cremation of Sam McGee right here, handy. So let me demonstrate what I mean by a dramatic pause. All right, good afternoon. My name is Ray, and today I'm going to read The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. This was written during the Great Gold Rush in Alaska in the 1890s, and Service loved writing these crazy stories that he heard from the different prospectors. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who mole for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. Did you see did you hear what I just did? Dramatic pause. One of the great sources of speech anxiety is the feeling that you can't have any, and this is a radio term, dead air. In other words, you can't stop for a moment. You have to constantly talk. And of course, you're going to run out of breath, and pretty soon you're going to fall on the floor. We have to call 911. No, we don't want that. A dramatic pause, not only at the beginning of your speech, but within the speech itself, can be very, very effective. Let me do it one more time. I'll keep it short this time. This is The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who mole for gold. Okay, there it is again, the dramatic pause. Not only does it give you a chance to take a nice deep breath to get ready to speak, but it prepares your audience. If you do it this way, hi, I'm Ray, and I'm going to read The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. There are strange things done in the midnight sun. I'm already out of breath. Also, people may not even be sure you've actually started, in this case, the poem or the reading. So a dramatic pause, setting the stage, these are all part of the physicality, the physical aspect of giving a presentation. All right, so what do I have on here? Reading books, poems, whatever you might happen to choose. The presentation that you might pick, you're going to find that the author, whoever wrote it, has built in a sense of rhythm, and I'm not talking just about poetry, but a sense of rhythm and pacing that's innate to the writing itself. And so whatever you happen to choose, now if it's a poem, it's right there. It's already in front of you, but you have to practice it and make sure you understand the rhythm and rhyme that's going on in the poetry. Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight jury, while I pondered weak and weary, hear that rhythm? Over a many forgotten tome, there came a rapping, a rap-tap-tapping at my chamber door. Okay, so it's built right in. Children's books are wonderful. A lot of children's books don't rhyme. I like Dr. Seuss, and they have rhyme, but not all of them do. But they still have a rhythm and pacing. Make sure you find that. Now you can pick whatever you want to read, and whatever it might be, you're going to find that rhythm and the pacing. Now you may want to read from a book, and I'm going to I'm not going to do it today. I'll save this for my next presentation. But I'm going to read from a book called The Time Machine. And when I do that, this is prose. It's not rhyming, but even that story has its own sense of rhythm. So you'll get to pick whatever you want to read. Now, when you select that, let me just go down the list here. I say when you select whatever look at the sentence lengths, make sure it's something you're comfortable with, the rhyming structure used, and so on. Think about how you vary your voice. I'll give a demonstration of that in just a second, so that it matches the poem. Don't be afraid to slow down, to speed up a little bit, to make those dramatic pauses. Let me give an example again. I'll stick with the cremation of Sam McGee here. All right. Hi, my name is Ray, and today I'm going to read The Cremation of Sam McGee by Robert W. Service. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who mold for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Lebarge. I cremated Sam McGee. That really just reaches right out and grabs you, doesn't it? Let me be a little overly dramatic. The cremation of Sam McGee. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who mole for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see. I'm going to start this over again. I'll talk about editing later because you have a chance to fudge a little bit, I suppose. Normally, if that would have happened to me when I was giving a presentation and I truly choked up, I would have done exactly the same thing. I would have taken a sip of water and I would have said, let me begin again. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who mole for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Lebarge. I cremated Sam McGee. Okay, you get the point. Have some fun with this. Have some fun with this. I'll talk a little bit more about my pacing here in just a moment as well. So again, remember, you get to pick what you want to read. I remember one of my favorites is I had somebody read the first chapter of the book of Genesis in the beginning. And she got up and she said, hi, my name is, and today I'm going to read the first chapter of the book of Genesis in the Old Testament, written by God. I loved it. Okay, so you can enjoy yourself with this. That's what I'm hoping anyway. All right. Make sure, and I've already talked about this a little bit. Make sure you're reading with emotion, that you really feel what you're reading. All right, I've already said this. Facial expressions, eyes, and again, because we're sitting in front of cameras doing this time, I think it's even more incumbent upon us to make an effort to try to do this so that it's interesting. Now, I haven't talked about sharing your videos within the class, and I've got an email in. I'm trying to figure out a way to do that, because if you're going to go to all this trouble, I want your classmates to be able to see it as well. So initially, obviously I'll be seeing them, but then I'm going to try to figure out a way to bundle them so that you can also see what your classmates are doing. So make sure that you really work on this and make it interesting to listen to. All right, now when you get to the end of your reading, there are things you can do also to make it more interesting. At the beginning of this particular poem, and by the way, I am going to read the entire poem, not for this video, but I'll do another video with just me presenting that I will send out. very soon. And I'm going to do things a little bit differently for that demonstration. But here's a good example for the opening of the cremation of Sam McGee that I just did. Uh, you know, the northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee. Now, Robert W. Service repeats these exact stanzas at the very end of the poem. And when you hear me read the entire poem, I'll obviously will do it very much the way I'm doing it right now. But at the end, I change things up a little bit. And remember, this is the end of the poem now. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who mole for gold. The Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Labarge. I cremated Sam McGee. Okay, so it's exactly the same words, but it's the end now. I want to create a sense of finality, that it's over, that I've told you the story of Sam McGee. So once again, it's all about practice and giving yourself the opportunity to enjoy what you're reading, because then other people will as well. By the way, and I'll talk about this again in the next video. You do not need to memorize anything. Now, I've read The Cremation of Sam McGee. I used to read this as a bedtime poem for my children. But anyway, I've read it so many times that I have the opening and closing and part of it memorized. It's just from doing it so many times. You do not need to memorize anything. In fact, I'm telling you right now, don't do it. And in the next video where I talk about the specifics of preparing for this presentation, I'll talk about what I call the script. And again, I'm having to modify things for this online type of presentation, but I'll talk about that as well. So, I'll be coming back to that. What else do I have? Oh, practice. I should make this rule number 4. Practice, practice, practice. Yes, practice your presentation, whether it be the dramatic reading, your self-introductory speech that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. It's all about practice. Now, the target time for this presentation, as you can see there on the slide, is 2 to 4 minutes. Now, that means that the max target time, you shouldn't present for more than 4 minutes. Now, again, I give a little leeway here. If you go for 4 minutes and 20 seconds, I'm not going to worry about it. But if you pick something and you go for 10 or 12 minutes, that's just too long. That's way beyond the target time assignment. Now, what about the 2 minutes? Well, if you pick something that's very short, then you're not going to meet the lower limit of the target time. I had someone once pick he came up to me and said, well, Ray, I want to read a haiku. And I said, well, how long does that take? 8 seconds. Yeah, haikus are very short. And I said, well, you're not going to meet the minimum target time even with that. So he was very clever, and he came up with 3 sets of haikus. And by weaving them together, he created a presentation, a dramatic reading that lasted, in that case, I think for about 3 minutes or so. And as I say here, I'm not quite as concerned if you go over the target time a little bit, keep it reasonable, but I am very concerned that you at least pick something and find a way to meet that minimum target time. So that's part of the assignment. Is your target time, are you managing to get in that 2 to 4 minute target time span? So again, the only way you're going to know if this happens is if you practice. And how do you practice? Read it out loud. If you read it to yourself in your head, the timing will be off. I just absolutely guarantee it. You have to read it out loud. Everybody has a stopwatch on their phone. set your stopwatch and time yourself as you read it out loud. Also, if you can stand to do it, well, there's two things. If you can stand to do it, actually record yourself as well. Oh my gosh, everybody loves listening to their phone message. Hi, this is Ray. I'm not available. You listen to yourself all the time, right? No, everybody hates listening to themselves. They think, oh, do I really sound like that? Doesn't matter. But try recording yourself and listen to it. One of the things that will help with is listening for the pacing, the timing, the pauses, and so on. And I highly recommend that you practice standing in front of a mirror. Look at yourself reading the poem. Oh God, nobody wants to do this, do they? But it really, truly helps. Professional actors do this all the time. There was a famous actor in the silent movies, a guy named Lon Chaney, who one of his greatest roles was as the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And apparently he spent hours in front of a big mirror practicing, his hunch and the way he walked, so that he knew what other people were seeing him do. Remember I talked about visualization? How do people see what you're doing? Now, it's really weird for me sitting here in front of my computer recording this, because that's exactly what I'm seeing right now, is I'm seeing myself recording this and I can hear myself. So it's almost like practicing in front of the mirror. All right. So stand up straight, yes. For the presentations, and when I do my video of my presentations, my demo, I will be standing up, not sitting in a chair. Okay, keep your head up. All right, chin up, as the English would say. Both feet flat on the floor. And again, you're not rocking back and forth and so on. Breathe. Remember to relax. Take those diaphragmatic breaths, as I talked about. Eye contact on a video? Well, look at the camera. Okay. Uh, I've already talked about this. Vary your voice. Make sure that you make this interesting to listen to. And when you're done, say thank you. People just spent 3 or 4 minutes listening to you, and you need to say thank you. All right. I hope you enjoyed the cremation of Sam McGee. Thank you for listening, or something like that. All right. Now, if you're having trouble finding something, I highly recommend that you go to a website called thepoetryfoundation.com. They have bazillions, I counted them. It's a bazillion different poems, stories, but you may already have something in mind. Like I said, a favorite children's book. When I do the demonstration video, which I'll do very shortly after this, in fact, it should be posted with this as well, you will see that I'm going to use both a printed versions of what I'm reading, and also I'll do one with a book as well. And that's a little different than normally what I have everyone do in class. But the Poetry Foundation may help you find something that you want to read. If you really, really, truly get stuck, email me. So start thinking about this. As I said, I'll have this posted very soon, along with my demonstration presentation, and you can get started on your dramatic reading as well. Thanks a lot for spending a few minutes with me, and here we go.